After the death of King Aegon III, his 14-year-old son Daeron inherited the throne. Called the Young Dragon, he proved an ambitious young man, convinced it was his destiny to unite the continent and complete the Targaryen conquest of Westeros. And so Daeron initiated the Second Dornish War, also known as the Conquest of Dorne, in which his forces were able to defeat the noble houses of the realm, placing the Lord of Highgarden to administer their new holdings. Yet while the rulers of Dorne were defeated, the small folk who populated the territory rebelled, refusing to submit to Targaryen authority. The occupation of Dorne became a disaster for royal forces, with many claiming Daeron lost 10,000 men taking Dorne, and up to 50,000 men trying to keep it. Eventually, even the king lost his life in the fighting, and the Targaryens were forced into retreat. Daeron was succeeded by his younger brother, Baelor, in 161 AC. King Baelor I, also called the Blessed, made peace with Dorne, ending the war by recognizing their sovereignty and humbling himself before them. Baelor was a devout worshipper of the faith of the Seven, the most pious and humble king the realm ever knew. The Great Sept of Baelor was built in his honor, and he was admired by many. During his reign, he locked away his 3 beautiful sisters in order to lessen his temptation and avoid the Targaryen tradition of incest. In 170 AC, despite having been locked away, the king's sister, Dana the Defiant, gave birth to Daemon Blackfyre, a bastard son fathered by her cousin Aegon Targaryen. After fasting 40 days and nights, King Baelor died in 171 AC. Though most believed his death came of malnutrition, there are some who think he was poisoned by his uncle Viserys, who feared Baelor had grown too zealous and was preparing to make war against the North and Iron Islands in order to convert them to the faith of the Seven. By all accounts, King Viserys was wise and clever and might have been a great ruler, but unfortunately died of a sudden illness 1 year into his reign. Some, however, suspect his son of poisoning him for the throne. In 172 AC, with Viserys II deceased, his eldest son Aegon was crowned king. Aegon IV was a drunken wretch of a ruler, largely considered the worst of the Targaryen kings. His many selfish and careless actions even earned him the name Aegon the Unworthy. Perhaps most damaging of all his decrees was heard as the king lay upon his deathbed in 184 AC, where he legitimized all his acknowledged bastard children, thereby sowing the seeds that would one day grow into the next great civil war of Westeros. After the death of King Aegon IV, his eldest legitimate son, Daeron II, was crowned king, and while his reign was fraught with difficulties, he accomplished much and was remembered fondly. Early in his reign, Daeron II was responsible for at last unifying the continent in 187 AC, not through war, but with a marriage alliance to House Martell of Dorne. Despite his accomplishments, the actions of his father haunted him throughout his reign, and Daeron's legitimacy was always in question. In 196 AC, the bastard-born Daemon Blackfyre, elder son of Aegon IV, declared himself king, and once again the continent was split into factions. The Blackfyre Rebellion ended at the Battle of the Redgrass Field, where Daemon was defeated and killed. Many of Daemon's children managed to escape with their uncle Aegor Rivers, who led them to Essos, where they lived in exile, leaving Daeron as king of Westeros. In 209 AC, after Sir Duncan the Tall, a young hedge knight, rescued a young woman from the abuse of young Aegon Targaryen, he was arrested and fought in a trial of 7. In this conflict, Prince Baelor Breakspear, heir to the Iron Throne, joined the side of the hedge knight and against his own nephew. And while Sir Duncan's team was victorious, Baelor Targaryen died in the fighting, and King Daeron was left without an heir. After the Great Spring Sickness of that same year, Daeron II died along with Baelor's 2 sons, leaving Daeron's second son, Aerys, as king. Aerys I ruled a troubled kingdom and spent most of his reign putting down rebellions from both the Blackfyres in the east and the Ironborn in the west, who took advantage of their weakened state and were raiding the western shores. In 211 AC, the hand of the king, Brynden Rivers, called Bloodraven, uncovered a plot to usurp the crown with a second Blackfyre rebellion, but it was halted before any battles were fought, with Daemon Blackfyre II arrested at the tournament at White Walls and taken as a hostage. In 219 AC, Aegor Rivers, called Bittersteel, led a third Blackfyre rebellion on behalf of Daemon II's younger brother, Haegon Blackfyre, but they too were defeated and Haegon killed. Bittersteel was arrested and sent to the Night's Watch for his crimes, but his ship was intercepted by Blackfyre loyalists, and once again he escaped to Essos. In 221 AC, King Aerys I died of natural causes, and his brother Maekar inherited the throne. The reign of King Maekar I was largely considered a peaceful one, though rebellion was always an issue. In 226 AC, the free folk beyond the wall, united under Raymond Redbeard, crowned their king. Under his leadership, they successfully scaled the wall and invaded the north, but were eventually defeated by Lord Willem Stark and his northern army. In 233 AC, Maekar died fighting outlaw rebels, leaving his eldest surviving son, Aemon Targaryen, as heir. But Aemon refused the crown and instead took his maester's vows, fleeing to the wall. This left only Maekar's youngest son, Aegon the Unlikely, a fourth son of a fourth son, and former squire to the hedge knight Sir Duncan the Tall. The reign of King Aegon V was largely prosperous, proving a kind-hearted and generous ruler. Brave on the battlefield and a man of the people, these characteristics which endeared him to the small folk also made him an enemy of the nobility, who felt he threatened their wealth and power. In 236 AC, Bittersteel and Daemon Blackfyre III invaded Westeros with the Golden Company in the Fourth Blackfyre Rebellion. However, they were unable to rally many lords to their cause, and were defeated at the Battle of Wendwater Bridge, where Sir Duncan the Tall slew Daemon Blackfyre, though Bittersteel again was able to escape. In 241 AC, Aegor Rivers died in the disputed lands of Essos, but the Blackfyre cause continued. In 259 AC, King Aegon V attempted to hatch the last of his dragon eggs at his home of Summerhall, but the plan went awry and the palace was consumed by a great fire, killing the king, his son, and the Kingsguard Sir Duncan the Tall. On this same day, in the same location, Rhaegar Targaryen was born. After the death of Aegon V, his eldest surviving son, Jaehaerys II, inherited the throne. Though his reign was short due to poor health, he proved a capable and wise ruler. In 260 AC, Meleys the Monstrous, last of the male line of Daemon Blackfyre, invaded the Stepstones, southeast of Westeros, joined by the Band of Nine, a group of merchants, mercenaries, and pirates, eager to carve out kingdoms for themselves. King Jaehaerys II knew that Meleys was using the islands as a staging ground for a fifth Blackfyre rebellion, and so gathered his armies and sent them to the Stepstones, where they fought and won the War of the Ninepenny Kings. During the fighting, Sir Barristan Selmy killed Meleys Blackfyre in single combat. After only 3 years as king, Jaehaerys died of illness, and his son, Aerys II, inherited the throne. Early in his reign, King Aerys appointed his friend Tywin Lannister as Hand of the King, and under his management, the Seven Kingdoms prospered for many years. However, their relationship grew strained over time, largely due to the king's growing jealousy and paranoia. In 277 AC, House Targaryen of Duskendale rebelled in the defiance of Duskendale. King Aerys, eager to prove himself a hero, went personally to settle the dispute, but was taken captive and held as a hostage. The town was besieged for 6 months, until Sir Barristan Selmy of the Kingsguard single-handedly rescued the king. In 280 AC, Rhaegar Targaryen, eldest son of Aerys II, married Elia Martell of Dorne. In 281 AC, a tournament was held at Harrenhal, where Prince Rhaegar was named champion, earning the right to crown a woman Queen of Love and Beauty. However, he passed over his own wife to give the crown of blue roses to Lady Lyanna Stark. This was later described as the moment when all the smiles died, for Lyanna was betrothed to Lord Robert Baratheon, and Rhaegar had in one action insulted House Martell, Stark, and Baratheon. Also in this year, after the defeat of the rebel Kingswood Brotherhood, Sir Jaime Lannister was named to the Kingsguard, thereby robbing Tywin of his heir. Having had enough of the king's disrespect, Tywin quit his position as Hand. Only 1 year after the departure of Tywin Lannister, King Aerys had alienated half the kingdom. Now called the Mad King, he and his son Rhaegar became responsible for the fall of their house. In 282 AC, Prince Rhaegar, ignoring his wife, seemingly abducted Lyanna Stark and brought her south. When her family learned of this outrage, Brandon Stark, heir to Winterfell, marched with 200 men to King's Landing in order to confront the prince. But Rhaegar was not present when they arrived, and so King Aerys had Brandon and his men arrested. When his father, Lord Rickard Stark, then traveled to the capital to negotiate his son's release, he too was arrested, and both were tortured and executed. After this act of barbarism, House Stark, Arryn, and Baratheon declared war against the crown. Later, House Tully of the Riverlands joined them, while House Martell and Tyrell remained loyal to the king, and House Greyjoy and Lannister remained neutral. The war culminated in the Battle of the Trident in 283 AC, where Robert Baratheon led his forces to victory against Rhaegar, smashing his warhammer in the prince's chest and destroying the bulk of the Targaryen army. After this action, the Greyjoys and Lannisters both joined the Baratheon cause, with the Ironborn fleet attacking the Reach, and Lord Tywin Lannister sacking King's Landing in Robert's name. During the fall of the capital, Sir Jaime Lannister betrayed his oath as a Kingsguard by slitting the throat of the Mad King, who in his rage and insanity was preparing to set fire to the city. Lyanna was found dead in Dorne later that year by her brother Eddard Stark, whom she entrusted with a secret Lord Stark never revealed. After the war, Ned returned home to Winterfell with a child named Jon Snow, claiming it was his bastard-born son by an unknown woman in the south. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Raphus, the Conceited Crow, Caesar the Salad, and Meville. If you would like to help Civilization X, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.